Chapter 8 CMADD Concept of Various Audits. So, first, the term audit has been derived from the Latin word audit, which means to hear. So, Companies Act contains the provisions relating to first, Secretarial Audit 204, Stat Audit 139 to 147, Cost Audit 148 and Internal Audit 138. Sec Audit 204, Stat Audit 139 to 147, Cost Audit 148, Internal Audit 138. Next, corporate governance. So, what is corporate governance? Corporate governance is a strategy activity that ensures that all the necessary process for directing and controlling a business enterprise are implemented effectively. It is about ethical conduct in the business. And corporate governance deals with the conducting the affairs of the company in such a way that there is a fairness to all the stakeholders and that is its action benefit the greatest number of stakeholders. So, at last, corporate governance is about transparency, integrity and accountability. And corporate governance provisions under listing agreement, popularly known as Clause 49 requirements in the SEBI LODR regulations. Next, need for the corporate governance audit. Audit serve as a monitoring device and is essential in corporate governance also. So the auditor view management as a primary driver of the corporate governance. So auditors view management, because management only will look after management as a primary driver of the corporate governance and ensure commitment of the board in managing the company in a transparent manner. Next, scope of the corporate governance audit. Scope of audit of corporate governance activities means if an auditor goes for the audit of corporate governance, where and all he can do the audit. First, financial and non-financial information and disclosures, and next directly go to the sixth point, transparency and disclosure of the financial information, and seventh point, strategic planning program guidance on social responsibility. So related to financial, sixth point, and related to non-financial, seventh point. Next, 2 and 3, this is related to persons. First one is stakeholders and third one is board of directors. And next, checking system. Next, for that is control environment and risk management. So first, financial and non-financial information and disclosure. Next, sixth point, transparency and disclosure of the financial information. Seventh point, strategic plans, programs, guidance on social responsibility. Next, about 2 persons, that is right of stakeholders and board of directors, their composition, mix and independence. And sixth, related to checking system, control environment, and last is risk management. Next, audit committee. In Companies Act section 177, in SEBI regulation 18, audit committee plays a vital role in the corporate governance of an entity, and its applicability is according to section 177. First, every listed public company, and second, third, fourth point is unlisted public companies. First, having the paid up share capital of 10 crore or more and turnover of 100 crore or more, and public companies which have in aggregate outstanding loans, debentures and deposits exceeding 50 crores. Audit committee shall consist of minimum 3 directors with independent directors forming a majority. So minimum 3 and independent directors majority. And next, majority of the members of audit committee including chairperson shall be with the ability to read and understand the financial statements. Next, regulation 18. Every listed entity shall constitute a qualified and independent audit committee in accordance with the terms of reference, subject to following. First, minimum number of directors. The audit committee shall have minimum 3 directors as a members. Next, requirement of IDs. Two-third of the members of audit committee shall be IDs. And in case of a listed entity having outstanding SR equity shares, the audit committee shall only comprise of the ID, means if normal, 2/3 should be ID, and if SR is there, all should be ID. Next, financial literacy. All members of the audit committee shall be financially literate, and at least one member shall have accounting or related financial expertise. So all of them financial literate, and at least one financial management expertise. So if there is a crowd, all members will be financial literate and only one will be expertise, like that. Next, presence of chairperson in the AGM. So whenever chairperson related, we have to write chairperson only, don't write chairman. Chairperson shall be ID, and he shall be present at the annual general meeting to answer the shareholders' queries. So he should be present in the AGM to answer questions to shareholders. Next, CS as a secretary audits Secretary of Audit Committee. So CS shall act as a Secretary of Committee. Invitation to the executive. The audit committee at its discretion shall invite the finance director or head of the finance function. So invite the finance director or head of the finance function and head of the internal audit and a representative of stat auditor and any other such executives to be present. So first mainly finance director or head of finance function, that is financial head, finance function head, finance director, head of the finance, head of the internal audit and representative of stat auditor. Next, role of audit committee in this. So in this point should be remember is point number 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 18 and 20. So recommend, approval, review, approval, scrutiny, review, discussion, review, carry. So majorly reviewing only is there. First recommend, approve. So from first recommend, approval, review, approve, scrutiny, review, discuss, review, carry. So first recommendation for appointment, remuneration and terms of the appointment of auditor. Next, approval of the payment to stat auditors. Next, review with the management the quarterly financial statements and review with the management about funds raised and the statement of funds utilized for the purpose other than the stated above in the offer document. Means all related to funds raised by the company. Review the management about funds raised through the issue. Next, review and monitor the auditor's independence and performance and effectiveness of the audit process. Next, approval of any subsequent modification of transaction in a listed entity with the related parties. So related party any transaction is there that audit committee has to approve, or any subsequent modification also is there that also they have to approve. Next, scrutiny of intercorporate loan and investment. Next, review with the management performance of a stat and internal auditor. Review with the adequacy of internal audit function. Discuss with the internal auditor of any significant finding. To review the functioning of whistleblower mechanism. Carry out any other function as is mentioned in the terms of reference of the audit committee. Next, checklist: accountability, fairness, transparency, responsibility, shareholder interest. Accountability, fairness, transparency, responsibility, shareholder interest. So we can remember as after AFT instead of ER. We'll write RS, that's all. AFT, RS, after. So first, accountability, fairness, transparency, responsibility, shareholder interest. First, in accountability, separation of ownership and control. Next, management to board, accountability, management to board. Next, board to shareholders. Next, check whether there is a policies or charters related to board and audit committee. Next, check whether the independent director have the power to play their role effectively. Check whether the auditors of the company have full access to the information and authority to present their views at the board meetings. Next, fairness. Check whether all the shareholders including the minorities are treated equally. Next, check whether the defined procedures for effective resolution of violations are there or no. And next, check whether the company has pricing policy and fair market practice code. So in fairness, 3 points. First, shareholders, company and procedure. Shareholders including minorities rights are treated equally, and defined procedures for effective resolution of the violation. If any company is facing the violations, that should be effectively resolved. For that, defined procedure is there or no. Third, whether the pricing policy and fair market practice code. Company has a pricing policy and fair market practice code. Fairness, shareholders, company procedure. Next, transparency. Investors should be able to obtain the information about the right attached to the shares before the purchase. Next, check whether there is a timely, accurate disclosure on all the material matters, including financial and non-financial performance. Company has a policy for making political contribution. Check whether the company have a comprehensive insider trading disclosure and compliance practices. Next, check whether the shareholders should be able to make their views on the remuneration policy whether shareholders. So, first investor, next material matters, next political contribution, insider trading and remuneration policy related. Can shareholders be able to make their views on the remuneration policy for board members and key executives? Responsibility. Check whether the company in responsibility to first company, next board, company board. First company has a policy on stakeholder right, shareholder, societal responsibility and business sustainability. So company has a policies regarding three: first stakeholders rights, social responsibility, business sustainability requirements. Check whether the board responsibility includes review and guiding of corporate strategy, major plans of the action, risk policy, etc. Shareholder interest. Ma'am said shareholder interest is very important, so focus on it. 3-4 times PYQ it is. So shareholder interest. Check whether shareholders should have the right to participate in concerning fundamental corporate changes such as amendment to the statutes, articles of the incorporation or similar governing documents of the company, authorization of the additional shares, extraordinary transaction include the transfer of all or substantially as all assets that in effect result the sale of the company. Next, check whether capital structure and arrangements that enable certain shareholders to obtain a degree of the control. Fourth one, the exercise of the ownership right by all the shareholders including institutional investors should be facilitated. Next, minority shareholders should be protected from the abusive actions being taken, and members of the board and key executives should be required to disclose to the board if they acquired any interest in the form MBP1. So first one is changes related to changes of amendments to the statutes, authorization of the additional shares, extraordinary transaction. Next, related to capital structure and arrangements and degree of control. And fourth one is on exercise of ownership right by all the shareholders including institutional investors should be facilitated. Exercise of ownership right means the shares which they are holding, for that related any rights will be now that they should have the power to exercise. Next, minority shareholders should be protected from the abusive actions. Members of the board and key executives should be required to disclose to the board. Next, corporate governance due diligence. In that, first is board composition. Is the chairperson an executive director? If chairperson is executive, does 50% or more of the board is ID? If the chairperson is the NED and is a promoter, and next if a chairperson is a NED and is not a promoter of the company. Next, the proportion of IDs into total number of directors means out of 10 how many IDs are there? 3, 4 like that. The company has at least one women director, and skip the fourth point, directly you can write fifth. In case of a top 2000 listed entity, the board of director has not less than 6 directors. No, you can include fourth also. So top 1000, for top 1000 one independent human director, and for top 2000 listed 6 not less than 6 directors should be. Letter of appointment of NEDs, maximum tenure of ID if any, details of a separate meetings of ID, details of the orientation program or training of directors, details of the D&O insurance if any, gap between the resignation and appointment of IDs. Next, board system and procedure, details of the circulation of agenda, details of board meetings, attendance in board meetings, details of meeting through video conferencing, list of applicable laws if any maintained by the company, information or certificate to board on stat compliance, communication of board decision to various departments, details of written code of conduct for directors, senior management and other employees, policy on action taken, policy on reviewing the effectiveness. Next, board committees, name of the board committees, it references, composition, meetings, details of the chairpersons of the board committees, proportion of IDs in audit committee, risk assessment process by audit committee. Related to audit committee, we have to write majorly here. Process of reviewing the RPT by the audit committee, details of the financial experts in audit committee, communication mechanism between internal auditor and audit committee and CFO. Communication mechanism between internal auditor, audit committee and CFO. Next, details of rotation of auditors or audit partners, details of pending investor grievances, transparency and disclosure compliances, details of the disclosure in the annual report, disclosure on the details of remuneration paid to board members, disclosure on the RPT, disclosure on material cases, means of communication, details of filings with Corp Finance filing portal, this ignore. Disclosure on insider trading, and last, disclosure of corporate disclosure policy. Next, consistent shareholder value enhancement. Growth in net worth. No, growth in net worth. Details of dividend paid. Dividend policy. EPS. Details of public shareholders. Details of investor satisfaction survey. Other stakeholder value enhancement. Details of vendor, supplier, customer satisfaction surveys. Personal policy means employees related. Policy on employee participation in management. Policy on ESOP. Policy on prevention of sexual harassment. Vendor development policy. CSR. Policy on CSR if any. CSR sustainability report. Energy conservation initiatives. Water or waste management initiatives. Budget for CSR activities. Please do like, share, comment. Thank